Okay, we're back. We're still discussing Article 8. We have something along the lines of 18 minutes of missing
reminds me of
tape
town
or
meeting.
something. I don't know. But
Town meeting.
we are going to solve that problem between now and tomorrow evening, because we're not going to be able to solve it tonight. And I think it affects this article and obviously the recommendation materially. And I would like to get this one right, because I think the property owners of Milton deserve this article to be passed, and I don't want to just send it back to the planning board for a little more clarification. So I don't think we're going to get through our agenda, everything tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, and we will take any votes we need to do, and those would be Article 6 or 8, because we haven't had a chance to circle back for the internal deliberation that you were looking for, Phil. So we will do that and vote Article 6, and we will try and solve our difficulties with Article 8 between now and tomorrow evening. And perhaps even Joe Prondak will be able to join us, because he was unable to do so tonight. He had an event on disabilities over at the high school. So, sorry we couldn't get it all done tonight. And I will see people tomorrow, and we'll take it from there.
And will you accept suggestions from me or from us
I
as to
will accept-
additional amendments that we would suggest you might want to do to this draft that you've provided to us tonight, or not?
Oh, the process is open.
I cannot come tomorrow night, so
You
I
cannot.
have a pre-existing engagement tomorrow night. I think we talked about it in our emails last week,
Yes, you did. And
just to let you know.
I'm concerned with the printing schedule, and I don't want to put off another hearing for a vote to Monday.
It may be worth hearing the recommendations that Marion and Ned are going to make, and to see what those are, if the Warrant Committee is willing to take a few extra minutes to do that.
I'm willing to tell
Tonight-
you right now what I
tonight.
looked at and what
I
I'm
would be
suggesting,
delighted to
but-
take them anytime, either right now or tomorrow during the day, whatever, I can present them. But if you have something to tell us now, I'd be delighted to hear it.
Well, just looking quickly at it, this
Okay.
is what I have to say, but I'll send it to you, and whatever you decide is fine. And I know this was not, so, the location is good. The reference to, this should refer to all residential districts.
As it does now?
As it does in your recommended language. The normal way of talking about this type of issue is to describe it as a valid pre-existing non-conforming lot, or a valid pre-existing, in this case, we're talking about lots. So instead of,
structures.
normally what you would say, I mean, in cases, and when you see this in bylaws and so forth, this says on a lot established before 1938 in a residence AA, A, B, or C district, including a subsequent division of such a lot by special permit pursuant to section blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you say, on a valid pre-existing non-conforming lot on which a dwelling is maintained, you've covered all of those. It covers all zoning districts. It covers any situation where the bylaw has been changed and a lot has become non-conforming later on, after 1938. So 1938 is when zoning was adopted, but after 1938, lots can become non-conforming too, because sometimes we change the dimensions of our lots.
So let
I'm
me
not
ask,
exactly sure what this language means, including a subsequent division of such lot by special permit.
okay, so,
I really don't even understand it, so I have to go back and look at it some more before
okay.
I would think you would just use that general phrase that I provided. So,
And I have certainly seen that phrase often enough to know that it's a tried and true one.
covers
It's a
everything.
tested one.
yeah.
The question I have for you, since it covers everything, Does it also cover residence districts E and D?
It covers all, it doesn't specify any particular residence district.
Do we really want to get into granting special permits and variances to Pine Tree Brook and Home Inc. and places that are covered
Only-
under E and D?
Only to the extent that there's a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling on one of those districts. And you have to establish that the dwelling is pre-existing and non-conforming.
Those aren't regular single-family
They're not
residential
reg-
districts.
They
I
were,
mean,
those were granted by special provisions and separate bylaws that apply to those developments. They have many of their own standards on setbacks, height, et cetera. This just deals with dwellings that existed, or that exist, that are pre-existing and non-conforming to zoning.
It's a single dwelling on a residential lot. That's what lot on which a dwelling is maintained. Now, you know, if the building commission, I will talk to the building
Okay,
commission
I didn't
about
write
these.
this.
Yeah, I
know
know.
you didn't.
No, I understand that, and none of us did. I think Alex Whiteside did, right? And fine, I mean, so I'm just explaining, so that's one
I
suggestion.
think he may have
Yeah.
written it that way because he wasn't including all districts.
Right.
But your language would include districts E and D, which,
No, because there's no
wouldn't.
there aren't any non-conforming structures on D and E.
okay, well, that answers it, thank you.
They're only,
Okay.
okay, the second issue
Right,
is
I love that. Okay,
1, 2,
great.
3, 4,
Sounds
5.
Sounds a lot nicer.
So
In the
that's simpler.
Yeah, in the fifth line, we have enlargement or alteration of the dwelling within the setback areas, and then it says established by section 6B, 6C1, and 3, and 6D1. Normally, what you're saying is within the setback areas allowed by the zoning bylaw. I mean, I don't know why we have those specific references in there. I mean, I don't know.
I don't
if it's
either, but I've
harmful.
checked them all out.
Yeah, they're right, so.
And they're
I'm-
right.
I don't know why they're necessary, I just don't think it's.
But, so if it's.
I would have just said allowed by the zoning bylaw, but, you know, you don't have to
Again, that
accept
sounds
these.
much nicer, and it covers the situation, so, great, terrific. I like that. As to clause 1 and 2, we can't solve that one tonight, I don't think.
So the fundamental issue with clause 1 and 2 is that they identify a number of specifics that may leave out other specifics that should be considered when determining whether or not there's a detrimental impact to the neighborhood. Those are things that you establish to meet number 3 that says that they're compatible with the neighborhood and they don't cause a detriment if you're going to make the change. So our concern with 1 and 2 is that you get into specificity and leaving something out that you might not have wanted to leave out.
Isn't there a pretty well-established
And there's a
procedure
very
for
well-established
understanding
standard, which
whether something
is-
is a detriment or not?
Yeah, and then you have to, you have to go through that. And not all of these would apply, and other things might apply. So if you leave out something that might apply, or if you have something that makes it unreasonable to apply, then it's too much specificity. And the standard is there. As it is, so, anyway, I just don't think that
So this
1
is
and 2 are necessary.
maybe irrelevant, but where is the standard?
To not be a detriment to not
Is this
cause a detriment to the
the
neighborhood.
accretion
The
of case
standard
law
for a
about
special
it?
permit
Okay,
is no substantial detriment to the neighborhood.
right, but the details that make that up is basically case law.
Yes,
Okay,
And ought to be left to case law, because it ought to be really specific.
flexible.
It's got to be flexible and has to apply to a whole range of different issues, which, not all of which apply all the time.
okay, there's one other issue I want to
So
raise.
you have to
because-
add that substantial detriment to this, because it's not there.
no, it is.
No, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Now, I have a question about this,
That's fine.
the language in here that it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm misreading it, maybe somebody can correct me. But all this is about wanting to make a change to a dwelling on a pre-existing non-conforming lot, which was the issue I started out with when I was talking tonight. It became a problem because of a case. So this says,
And how is that different
On a
from what's there
pre-existing, a
already?
valid pre-existing non-conforming lot on which a dwelling is maintained, the Board of Appeals may issue a special permit for enlargement or alteration of the dwelling within the setback areas allowed by the bylaw, and within the existing height of the dwelling upon the standard set up in section 9C1. In other words, within the allowed height and the allowed setbacks,
Existing-
upon the following findings. And we think you should leave out 1 and 2, but it says, before that, it says, the non-compliances in setbacks and heights. There are no non-compliances in setbacks and heights. The whole point of this is that you are enlarging or you are changing a dwelling that is on a pre-existing non-conforming lot, but you're changing it and you're still observing the setbacks and the height. That's all this paragraph refers to. It's a correction, it's a clarification of the impact of that case, saying that you only need a special permit if, in that case. You need a special permit. You didn't need one before the 2005 case, but you do now. And it's articulated in here what the standards are for that special permit. It's not about enlargements of dwellings that create dimensional nonconformities or create nonconformities in height. So I think that's a mistake, that language. And that, you know, you can go back to Alex and ask him. I believe that's a mistake. I think it's just a mistake, that he says one thing here, and then here he starts talking about nonconformities, and we're not talking about nonconformities that are dimensional. We're only talking about a lot that's nonconforming. Do you
No,
read
I
it the
would-
same
I-
way?
No, I was reading it to apply to non-conforming structures.
But it
And-
doesn't say that in the beginning.
Yeah, I know, it's confusing.
It's
So-
more than confusing, and the only problem that currently exists, well, yeah, okay, because of what the building commission's been doing, it's more of a
It's more of a
problem.
Can I
problem.
address that?
Yes.
Yes,
I
thank
think-
you,
I
Anne Marie.
think what he's trying to say is, okay, so you've got a house, somebody has come in for an application to add an extension, right? That extension is possibly moving along an existing nonconformity. As Ned was talking earlier during the break, you've got a house that is set back 10 feet from the front lot line. You're adding an extension that goes along that. So technically, that is increasing a nonconformity. What we're saying is you're allowed to do that. So what he's saying here, and it should maybe be worded differently, given Marion's comment, but he's saying that addition, that extension of the nonconformity can be allowed if it meets the following things. So I think that's what he meant by the noncompliances. What you're doing with this addition is that you are possibly increasing that existing nonconformity along a certain plane. You're not necessarily increasing it in all directions, but along that. So maybe it should be the change is designed to be, you know, the addition, the modification, however you want to do, is designed to be architecturally compatible and is reasonably necessary for dwelling purposes. The idea, the phrase, the noncompliances and setbacks and heights may not be the appropriate phrase, but something has, what is it that is being designed to be architecturally compatible with the dwelling? It's the modification to the building. So maybe that's what it needs to be. You know, you're saying, and upon the following findings, something is designed to be architecturally compatible. He's put it as the existing, the noncompliances and setbacks and heights. I'm not sure that's the right phrase. But you don't just say the following findings are designed, you know, you need something to replace that.
We've got it.
Okay. This is going to take more than a comma to solve.
So the modifications and setbacks and heights, Bill's whispering into my ear, would probably replace noncompliances and achieve the effect that we're looking for here.
The modifications and setbacks and heights.
Yes. And then those modifications are designed to be architecturally compatible, et cetera, and are reasonably necessary for dwelling purposes by the residents.
That I think is, I think that's what was intended, but I promise I will talk to the building commissioner tomorrow to see what he intended, because he worked on,
You should actually,
This
I
with
think,
you.
actually, if you look at the previous sentence, a special permit for enlargement or alteration of the dwelling, you should then say that the alteration or enlargement or alteration of the dwelling may be had upon the following findings, that the enlargement or alteration is designed to architecturally compatible with the neighborhood and reasonably necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
could
I
do
like,
that
I
either.
like that approach
Because
because
that's what
it's,
you're doing.
because you're
Either
You're
modification
referring
or alteration
back to the
or whatever.
previous, clause,
Right.
Yep.
but substituting a new one,
Yeah.
and introducing new meaning.
Right,
So
Okay,
I
good.
like
I don't
that.
have a problem with enlargement or alteration.
no,
Good.
Moving forward there.
And enlargement is the same as extension. All right.
okay.
So, but
That's
you
as
are,
much as we can
you're not done
determine
with us.
tonight.
Are you done
Um,
with us?
just sort of grammar, section, item 4, condition 4, it should be the proposed changes are reasonably necessary for dwelling purposes by the residents.
Well,
I
doesn't
think.
enlargement or alteration at the beginning already
Yes.
take care of that?
The enlargements and alterations
Designed to be.
4 are reasonably necessary for dwelling purposes by the residents.
Although that would be 2.
Oh,
now,
okay,
because they
yeah,
made
all
it
right,
two.
sorry, yeah. But, it's getting too messy
Um,
now, I can't even read what I
Getting
have.
too late.
Yes, it is,
And we don't know if 1
I'll
and 2
go
are
over.
going to disappear.
yeah.
So
Well,
my
if they
problem with
don't,
1 and
yeah,
2
they should.
disappearing is that the argument that Joe Prondak made was that because of the specificity of this, it gave this thing some teeth, which prevented Section 4 from being so broad that he didn't want to rely on it for people getting a special permit. That was what he told me. So
I
if
don't
you take
understand
that
that.
stuff out, is he still going to be happy with it? I don't know.
Yeah, you may be reading this to be
Right.
broader than it actually is, so it's
Right.
very confusing, and I promise I will talk to him tomorrow just to try to figure out what he thinks it means. And, but I hope we can get something
Great.
clear by tomorrow night for you.
That would be
Because
desirable. Thank you for sticking around.
Yeah, thank you very
for
much.
having us.
Okay.
Thank you for working on it so
Yeah.
hard.
Lee Michael,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor? Thank you, everybody.